Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Aytekin Tank joining us. Aytekin is the founder and CEO of Jotform, a powerful online form builder with over 25 million users worldwide. Chances are that you, the listener, have used this tool. Aytekin is also the author of Automate Your Busywork. Do less, achieve more, and save your brain for the big stuff. So we're going to be talking about busy. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship today. It's going to be a very rich conversation. Welcome to the show, Aytekin.
Thank you, Andre, for having me on your show. Thank you.
And you are joining us from Ankara, Turkey today.
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Before we get started, I ask all my guests this question. Please tell our listeners your story.
I think one of the things that is different from me, from many founders, is I am a bootstrapper. So almost 2 decades ago, I started Jotform on my own, and I never received any funding, any investor money, any debt, or we never exited in like stock market, IPO, or anything like that. So 2 decades after, we are still a bootstrap business. And what's great about that is that we have the freedom. We don't have to answer to an investor. We don't have to answer to lenders. So we are kind of free to choose how we go. And one of the things that I really like is I really like to work on our product. I'm a product-focused founder. And I kept working on, and I always believed that if I kept working on the product, if I make the greatest product in the world, that people will actually come and people will use the product. And as a bootstrapper, it's kind of hard. It starts very slowly. So just to give you an example, the first year it was all me. Second year, I hired my first employee. Third year, I hired the second employee. Like for the first 5 years, I was only adding one person a year. So we had such a slow growth. And in this day and age, like everybody is like talking about how, they are reaching to hundreds of employees in a few years, and so many big revenues in such a short time. That I'm actually proud that we had a slow growth, and we built a company. I built a company that I want to work for, and still I'm still 100% owner of the company. I'm still bootstrapped, and I continue this journey and enjoy every minute of it.
Well, that's a wonderful story, especially for our entrepreneur-focused listeners. Aytekin, if you had to pick one event in your life that was just a real accelerant to your career, what would that be?
A few years into Jotform, I was struggling because I was actually doing everything. Like I was doing support. We didn't have anybody to do support for our product. Like I was. From morning to night, I was doing customer support. I was doing accounting, legal, HR, ordering supplies for the office. I was doing pretty much everything, and I was busy with emails. So, and because I was so busy with all these things, that I actually didn't have much time to improve the product, which is actually why I started my company. Like I want to build a great product out of people use. And right at this moment, something else happened. Actually, a Goliath actually came into the ring. Google Forms, Google announced Google Forms, and now I'm kind of struggling, and also I'm a bootstrapper, and I'm slow. I have slow growth, and I also don't have time to work on my product. But now I have to compete with Google. So that was kind of one of the toughest moments for me. And that was also a decision moment for me to kind of find a way to get out of this cycle of business. And that's what I did. I actually, I hired 10, Upwork. At that time, it was called Odesk. I hired 10 people on Odesk all over the world and gave them the customer support, right? And I also I started like looking into how I can automate and delegate. So I started automating everything as much as possible. I started delegating a lot of things in the business. So for example, I found an automation technique that actually saved me hours every day by being able to prioritize my emails, being able to see the top emails first. I was able to like save so much time. But I also started applying the automation ideas to our product. So our product is an online form builder, but people don't just complete a form just to complete a form. People complete a form because they need something. They need to make a request, register for something, pay for something. So there's actually a workflow that starts with the form. Someone fills the form, but after that, there are many steps going on. And I decided that if we can actually automate the other things, if we can help people automate the things they need to do after the form, then actually our product is going to be much more useful for people. So after I learned so much about automation by doing all those things, last year, I also wrote the book, Automate Your Busywork, and it became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. So I continue to try to automate everything as much as possible today.
That's awesome. So there is an epidemic of busy, put busy in quotes. Everybody claims to be so busy, and being busy has become almost a meaningless brag. I'm so busy, I don't have time for that. It's a shield to hide inefficiency and skill deficiencies for some. So, you have this book, you've written about busy. How do we move from a focus on busy to a focus on productivity and what's really meaningful?
It's all about prioritization. There is a great Eisenhower quote. He says that I have two kinds of problems. The urgent and the important. The urgent are usually not important, and the important are seldom urgent. So, and Stephen Covey actually took this quote and he actually created this 2x2 matrix that he called Eisenhower matrix. So in the Eisenhower matrix, like you have 4 quadrants. You compare urgency to importance. In the first quadrant, you have urgent and important, right? And if something is urgent and important, that like it happens very seldom. And like you have a loved one who is having a health problem, right? That's urgent and important, right? You just take care of that. Your business is having like cash crisis. It's urgent and important. You just take care of that. So it's happens very seldom. You are aware of that, so you take care of that, right? The fourth quadrant is not urgent, not important. That's also really, it's also very clear. Like you just automate or delegate it. It's just, you try to get rid of it. Like it's not important. It's also not urgent. You just find a way to get rid of it, right? So the tricky part is the other 2 quadrants. The urgent but not important. This is actually pretty much everything we have, right? We receive emails every day. Like we receive hundreds of emails every day. An average office worker receives, over 150 emails every day. So and we receive all these, Slack messages. We receive all these like social media, notifications. All the news. And everything, it feels so urgent, but they're not. They may feel urgent, but they're not important. And you can actually take your time to do those things. You can actually get rid of many of them. You can actually take the time to do most of the things. But the problem is, most people don't have time for things that are not urgent, but important. So that's the third quadrant. And most people actually miss that. And Stevie Covey actually talks about that, right? You want to make sure that you time box for the important stuff that may not be urgent. So in my case, like my morning time is my most productive time is the mornings. And when I wake up, I go to gym. I take a shower and I have my coffee, and I'm actually ready for the work. And I'm most productive. I'm excited about the work. And here's the things that I don't do. I don't look at my emails. I don't look at alerts in my phone or in my Slack or anything else. Like, I don't look at the news. I don't look at the social media. What I do is I will just ask myself, what's the most important thing I can work on? And I make sure that I spend at least 2 hours on the important stuff. And sometimes I have something urgent waiting for me, like someone is saying, okay, we need to solve this, we need to do this. But I know that it's, if it's that urgent, they would actually call me. I would be aware of it somehow. Like, it's not, it can wait. It can wait until like afternoon. So what I will do is I will actually I use IA Rider, and I will just launch IA Rider. What I like about it is, like, on Mac, it can actually go full screen, and it can actually go have black background. And I start writing, and and if I don't know what's the most important thing I should work on today, I will just do a brain dump. Julia, I forget her surname, but she has a book about that. She calls that the morning pages. So I will just write down whatever comes to my mind, and at some point, it comes out. Like, what's the most important thing that I should be working on comes out, and it's sometimes I need to learn something, and I just buy a book and start reading. Maybe there's hundreds of emails are waiting for me, but I take care of the important first. And if I need to learn something, maybe I need to watch this podcast. Maybe I need to read this blog post. Maybe I need to, read this book, because if I need to find that solution for that important problem, I need to take the time to do that. And I think that's the solution for the business problem. You make sure that you work on the important things.
Yeah, that quadrant of important but not urgent. It is so easy to push that off, to kick that can down the road, and so many of us do it. So what you're recommending for our listeners is to really be purposeful about making the time for the important but not urgent. So thank you for that, Aytekin. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Aytekin Tank. We'll be right back. Has trust broken down in your organization? Learn how smooth workflows enable accountability and unlock trust to create long-term business success. Learn more in my new book, The Balanced Business, available today at Amazon.com and wherever books are sold. And we're back with Aytekin Tank talking about being busy, productivity, time management, and we'll get to entrepreneurship. So Aytekin, let's shift gears to time management. As in a general sense, we don't do a good job of teaching this skill in our schools, and many workforce participants do not manage their time well. I like to run thought experiments on the show, so let's suppose you have a new technical school or college grad sitting right in front of you right now. What advice do you have for this individual to develop and hone their time management skills, and more importantly, get over the feelings of embarrassment and inadequacy that time mismanagers feel? And I'm pointing at myself here because I have struggled mightily with this subject over the years.
And this applies to any kind of graduate. It doesn't have to be technical. But my first advice is always, you need to put in the work. There is no shortcut. You need to put in the work, you need to work hard, you need to improve yourself, you need to learn. Because as a new graduate, you don't know many things, and it just takes time. And, it's just, you need to really, even if you work 9 to 5, when you go home, maybe instead of watching Netflix, just read a book or just research something, take the time. because if you don't put in the time, it's just going to take you so much more longer, and you're not going to be as productive as you can be. And so I have 3 kids, and 9, 7, and 1.5. And my kids, 9-year-old and 7-year-old, they actually go to basketball training, and 9-year-old actually started playing games as well. And so one of the things that they do in their trainings is just they just repeat the same things over and over again, because it just takes so much time. And the first day they when they started basketball, they couldn't even reach the rim. Like they couldn't even shoot the ball. They couldn't even dribble, the ball at all. But now, like they are getting so much better every day, because they keep like 3 times a week they do the same drills over and over again, and then they learn it and they become better at that. So it takes time. It takes hard work. There's no shortcut for it. So I will always advise, be the first at the office and be the last person in the office if you want to be really good. So that's the hard work part. And the second part is, even if you work so hard, you're not going to go ahead if you don't have people who help you, if you don't have a coach, if you don't have a mentor. You are not going to be able to discover everything yourself. And I ask them to just go to people and ask for help. And people are usually like, and in our company, we actually have a mentorship culture. We will actually do co-piloting, right? When we build teams, like we will put both the senior and the junior people in the teams, so that they can actually co-pilot, like they can work together, they can sit next to each other. And co-pilot doesn't happen, like it's not always like the senior person is in the computer and the junior person is next to. Sometimes the junior person is actually doing the work and the senior person is actually talking, giving feedback and providing advice. But both is actually needed, because you learn so much more when you see someone actually performing well. So it's that's my recommendation. Just get mentorship, ask for help, and people are like most like junior employees, they're afraid to ask for help. They are afraid that they might get rejected, or they're afraid that they don't deserve to get help. But if they just ask for it, like people are usually very happy to provide, advice, mentorship. So that's usually my advice to them.
Yeah, it's a great feeling as a mentor and somebody with a bit more experience in the workforce to have a junior colleague come up and ask for help. And so that is great advice for our listeners, especially our early career listeners. Make sure that you put yourself out there, ask for help. So if I go back to Aytekin's previous advice, which comes from a derivative of Stephen Covey's work, make sure that you're prioritizing the important and managing all of the urgent much more effectively. Get off Netflix to the extent that you can. Show up, work hard, be there, and then ask questions, connect with others. That's fantastic advice. Now, I would totally be remiss if I didn't explore your experience as a successful entrepreneur. You've given us part of your bootstrapping story, the persistence, the slower growth, the grinding through. Can you tell us about the moment when you realized that Jotform was going to reach scale and become a hit? What was that like when you woke up and you said, wow, this is really going to work? And then on the flip side, as you're answering that question, what was the biggest challenge that you faced on that journey to scaling the business?
Yeah. So there wasn't actually one moment that I discovered that, it was all this, steady struggle that kept on going for many years. And I remember actually I made a document that was titled, 30 things we should do to reach 1 million users, right? And many years later, when we reached 1 million, and at the beginning of this document, I actually wrote, we are probably never going to reach 1 million users, but these ideas could still help us. And then when I actually looked back at that document, I discovered that we actually tried many of them, and most of them actually didn't work. Most of them actually didn't help us. But it's important to keep struggling, keep continuously growing. And there wasn't a single moment. The biggest struggle, I think, during these years, during almost 2 decades, was I think when we were around 15 employees. So, and that was around 2014, right? So at that time, things weren't actually working well. Like as a company, we weren't actually very productive. And when I compared back to when we were like 5 people, we were much more productive. So I wondered, like, okay, we are triple the size. Why we are not productive? Why we are not doing well? Why we are not doing as well as before? We should be like producing 3 times. And what I discovered was because when I started the company, I only knew how to code. I didn't know anything about like management or finance, legal, whatever. Everything I learned on the way. So because I didn't learn management, I assumed that, and in my previous company, it was kind of like that as well. Like everybody actually worked on different projects. I assumed that what the companies do is as they grow, you have as many projects as the number of people you have, and everybody is working on different things. So what was happening was we had like 15 employees, like everybody was working on different things. And when we were about like 5 employee size, we were actually working as a team. Like we were one team. We had a small office space. We had a whiteboard. Like we had a single project, which was Jotform. And we would just talk about Jotform all the time. We would just go in front of the whiteboard and discuss ideas. We would go to lunch together and just continue talking about Jotform all the time. We had a single project. And we were kind of cross-functional. We had a designer, we had developers. I was kind of the lead. So it was like that. And then when we actually grow a little bit, we actually lost that culture. We lost that way of working. And I decided that I'm going to go back to that. So right at that time, we were about to like move to a new office space with like more space. So I hired an architect and I said, okay, build us a small team rooms that are like 6 people, that can only hold like 6 people, and make sure that there's a whiteboard in it, and make sure that it has a door that closes. And so we built this really good looking office space with like small rooms for our teams. And like I divided the team in 3 teams, and we hired more people in 2015. And, we actually increased to 5 teams at that time. And then we started doing the same things. One team, one project, one goal. And, they would go to lunch together. We would actually pay for lunch 1 day a week as well to go for the team lunch. They had their whiteboard, they had their room. So I actually recreated the startup environment for each team. And I gave them the most important projects. So they had a single project, and that worked. They actually became really productive, and really, we created the, Jotform V4 around that time, around 2016, and that team actually came up with great ideas. They were also cross-functional. So, and they taught me how to actually scale the company, how to keep our culture, how to scale the company. And today we have the same structure. We are a team of teams, right? We have a team of small teams, and we still have the same thing. When we build new office space, it's all about these small team rooms, usually like glass doors and whiteboards, and we kept the same culture, and we were able to scale the company because of that, without losing this culture.
So you started, you had this cohesive team atmosphere, then a small amount of growth, but a lot of entropy, meaning things falling apart, and then coming back in cohesive team of teams environment. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Aytekin, as we wrap up the show, two really quick questions for you. Lightning round. I give you access to a time machine. You can send a message to an earlier version of yourself. What's the message and what's the previous version of you that you choose to send it to?
I would actually, when I hired a COO, Chief Operating Officer, and I gave all these like day-to-day executive, like meetings and things like that, that actually freed up so that I can actually work on the most important things. And that made a big difference for me. Like instead of working on the administrative stuff and instead of working on like meeting with a lot of people, I'm actually be able to spend more of my time. So I did this because when I was having my second child, and which is like 7 years ago, that I actually wanted to spend my time with my family. I didn't want to spend time at work. So I decided, okay, if I hire a COO and if he sits with me and if I can delegate many things to him, I can actually do this. But that was a good decision. So I would actually just send a message to an older myself than that 7 years, maybe 10 years before, and I would say hire a COO even earlier so that you can actually focus on the important things. You can actually spend your time on the important things.
Yeah, accelerate that decision to hire somebody who can take things off your plate. That's great. Aytekin, we're all works in progress. What are you focused right now in your journey of growth as a leader?
This is actually it. Like being in this podcast is a good example. So I have always been an introvert, and I was like, I had to do speeches time to time. And I was like so anxious when I had to do a speech. I would prepare for weeks just to make sure that, and I tried to memorize everything, and I was really bad at speaking. And so I did two things. So one of them was I started like giving speeches every week to our team. So we have these demo days where, teams actually share their ideas. I started giving, these speeches every week, and I got better and better at giving speeches, preparing my speeches. And now I don't actually need a lot of time to prepare. I don't need to memorize it. Just I can actually really think about the ideas and, write down my ideas and, just make sure I pick a good topic that I care about. If I care about it, I will actually give a good speech because I'm also discovering a lot of things while I'm preparing for speeches. And the second thing is when I was last year when I was launching my book, I started doing podcasts, and I really enjoyed it. I discovered that in my personal growth journey, being in podcasts actually improved my speech. I became better at talking, and they're more informal, and it's actually really nice to be on podcasts because it's a good way to share. It's also not about just improving myself, but also being good at sharing what I learned with the world, and that also helped me. So thank you for helping me in this personal journey as well.
Excellent. Well, Aytekin, it's been wonderful to have you on the show today. Where can our listeners learn more about Jotform and you and your work?
So a free chapter of my book is available on my website, on my personal website. It's aytekintank.com, which is my first name, last name.com. And they can go there and they can read the first free chapter. And then if they like it, they can find the book there as well to buy. Jotform.com is fine, right? And I also write on various places on the web. I write for Forbes. I write for Entrepreneur magazine and Fast Company. And I have a blog on Medium, so you can also read me there as well. Thank you for having me on the show.
Excellent. Yes, thank you so much for being here, Aytekin. My name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public good with your friends and your colleagues. We'll see you next time on the Balancing Act.